In this video, we are looking at another scaffolded reading passage, and I'm using that same scaffold with the same components that we've used before. And we're continuing with our kangaroo theme, but the skill here is sequencing. So I want to give this page a title. And as soon as I do that, we need to go over to the table of contents and update. So let me scroll back to the table of contents. So on page 6, we will have our sequence practice. And on page 7, we are looking at sequence itself, what the skill actually means. So let me go back to this page. This is page 7, and let's take a look at this passage. I'll zoom in just a minute. Well, I'm moving it around. Let's try here. Okay. The life cycle of a joey kangaroo is quite fascinating. So let's stop and remember what that word joey means. A joey is a baby kangaroo. So the life cycle of a baby kangaroo is quite fascinating. Now, as soon as I see this word cycle, that makes me think there may be sequence involved. It all starts, there's a keyword. It all starts when the mother kangaroo gives birth to a tiny, hairless joey. So starts, and I think I'm going to back off here and actually do this. It starts when the mother kangaroo gives birth to a tiny, hairless joey. So the baby kangaroo is born. At this stage, the joey is very vulnerable, which means that it's at risk, and needs to immediately crawl into its mother's pouch. So the baby is born. It's tiny, hairless, and vulnerable, and it crawls into its mother's pouch. So that's the first thing it does. And I'm just going to put a 1 right there. Inside the pouch, the joey attaches itself to one of the mother's breasts where it feeds and grows. So once it's safe in that pouch, it attaches itself to one of the mother's breasts so that it can eat and grow. So that would be the second thing that's happening. As the joey grows, so its time is passing, as the joey grows, it starts to develop fur and get stronger. So time is passing, the baby joey is growing and getting stronger. After a few months, so more time has passed, the joey becomes too big for the pouch and begins to venture out, still staying close to its mother for safety. So he leaves the pouch, but he doesn't go far. More time is passing. As it continues to grow, the joey becomes more independent, hopping alongside its mother and learning important skills like finding food and avoiding predators. So that's the 5th thing that occurs. Eventually, or finally, at the end of this process, the joey becomes a fully grown kangaroo, ready to start the cycle all over again by becoming a parent itself one day. So that's the end of the process, and then it all starts again. So this is a cycle that repeats itself in nature, allowing the kangaroo species to continue. Do you see the sequence in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can almost see the steps unfolding as we read. So in this story, those are my keywords. So step 1, we have the baby's born. So let's say Joey is born with no hair. It's tiny and vulnerable. Vulnerable means it's at risk. It could not survive at this point without mom. Okay, the second thing that occurs, that's the yellow step, it attaches, and let's be clear, Joey attaches to the mother's breast to eat and grow. So it crawls in that pouch, starts to eat, and it starts to grow. That's step 2. As it starts to grow, it develops fur, and it also gets stronger. This is like a human baby, except the fur part. But as that baby eats and as time passes, it gets stronger. Then the fourth thing that happens, the Joey is too big to stay in the pouch all the time. So it goes out some, doesn't stay out, it ventures out, but it doesn't leave mom. It stays close to mama, and it can jump in that pouch if it needs to. But then it just becomes too big for the pouch. It can't really stay in the pouch. It can't really even get into the pouch. And then it's able to hop alongside mom. So I'm going to say that Joey outgrows the pouch. And so Joey hops along beside mom, still with mom, but not dependent on the pouch anymore. And it's learning skills like how to find food and avoid predators, avoid danger. So at this stage, in my mind, it's sort of like a teenager. It's not really living in the pouch anymore, but it still needs mom to show it some things. And then finally, eventually, that Joey is a full-grown kangaroo, and he or she is ready to start having a family of its own. So those are the key steps, the key words in this process. That's the sequence. This 1 through 6 is called the sequence. These things happen in a very predictable order. You can't get the steps out of place or the process does not work. So what's the topic of this passage? Remember, topic, I need to tell what's happening in 5 or fewer words. So remember last time I used kangaroos. This is a little more specific. Kangaroos would not work this time because we're not talking about kangaroos in general. We're talking about a Joey, a baby kangaroo. And if you look here, you can see there's the Joey. This is a female kangaroo, full-grown adult kangaroo. You can see her strong legs, that long tail would continue if I could see it. something like that. Do you remember why they use that tail? Why do they have that tail and those legs? Those legs help them to hop, and the tail gives them balance. So there's Mom and there's Joey. One way I can tell this is a kangaroo are those sharp ears. They have large, sharp ears. And I'm off track here. Okay, so we're talking about the Joey this time. Specifically, what about the Joey? The Joey grows for a month, 6 months. The Joey grows into an adult. That's a title for this passage. 5 words or fewer. The Joey grows into an adult. If I could do one more word, I would say into an adult kangaroo. But I'm limiting myself to 5 words or fewer. So, what is the main idea of this passage? That the Joey is born and then it's an adult. What happens in the middle? A Joey kangaroo, remember this one needs to include the topic. So a Joey kangaroo grows into an adult during what? We could say a predictable cycle, but I'm going to say during the first few months of life. Now, I'm basing that on what I read. It talks about that purple step. After a few months, the Joey becomes too big for the pouch. So I'm assuming that all of this takes place in terms of a month. A year, the first few months of life. We could Google the life cycle of a Joey and find out how long it takes. I should have done that just for my own knowledge, but that's a good thing that we could look into. A Joey kangaroo grows into an adult during the first few months of life. All right, and here in the summary, I want to talk about the process. I need to remind everybody that this is a process, a sequence. So I'm going to say during the first year, a Joey let's not use grows. Whoops. I want erase, but I want a small eraser. There we go. A Joey goes through a growth cycle from a tiny hairless baby to a full-grown adult. And your summary may look different than mine. It's okay. There's not a right or wrong answer. We just want to make sure that we are restating the paragraph, not copying it word for word. We're restating it in our own words. In the next video, on page 6, we'll look at some questions about this passage.